Good afternoon, and thanks for being here. As you remember, during the height of the pandemic, when we were asking people to limit holiday gatherings, we knew we needed something to give everyone some hope at a very dark time. So we launched Vermont Lights the Way, encouraging Vermonters to decorate homes, businesses, construction equipment, tractors, and yes, even trees. We also asked people to recognize others for random acts of kindness and celebrate those good deeds through our Rays of Kindness initiative. And across the state, Vermonters stepped up, spreading joy and goodwill during a holiday season when we were separated. Whether it's holiday lights or helping a neighbor, random acts of kindness and good deeds are what makes Vermonters so special, which is why we continue to highlight these Rays of Kindness ever since. So today, I want to talk a little bit more about some of these random acts, because while the pandemic is far behind us, it's clear to me we still need to be reminded of all the good happening, even in difficult times. Each Ray of Kindness recipient was nominated by someone in their community who noticed what they had done and reached out to our office to recognize it. We've had nominations recognizing everything, from fundraisers and flood cleanup to simple acts like delivering a wreath or just picking up kids for a sick parent. The gratitude we see in these nominations is a reminder to us all that acts of kindness, no matter how small, can brighten someone's day and make a lasting difference. I want to highlight these because we also see that hearing about this kind of goodwill can inspire others to do the same, because kindness is contagious. And when we see all the anger and division across the country, I believe these kinds of acts that support our neighbors, lend a helping hand to strangers in need, and give back to our communities, help us remember the good in each other, regardless of our differences. So today I'm joined by Mike Gonaville, or Mr. G as he's known to students, who's been a PE teacher at Northfield Elementary School for 46 years, longer than many of you in the room have been alive. He's dedicated his career to inspiring kids to get outside and exercise, and built on that through the community with his Walking Wednesday initiative, which earned him a Ray of Kindness recognition. It's leadership like Mr. G's and countless others who give us hope and inspire us. So I hope Vermonters take some time this holiday season to reflect on that and look for opportunities to make their communities a better, more connected place for all. So with that, turn it over to Mr. G.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, everyone. This is quite exciting. Governor's talked about this act of kindness initiative. There's probably no more important time than the present for that to continue and grow in the world that we're in presently. I've seen it firsthand how it can benefit so many people. I grew up in the world of physical activity. I can remember at 5 years old, my grandmother taking me on walks because I couldn't sit. I was always moving around and so forth, and she would take me on walks and each and every day. And from that day on, physical activity has been kind of the centerpiece of my life, personally and professionally. So this Walking Wednesday initiative started in 2007, just an extension of everything we do at school, and it has grown immensely. It started in the fall of 2007. Probably 5 or 6 youngsters started with me, and we would meet at the college, Norwich University, and take our walk through the town and end up at school half hour later and start the day. It has grown to the point where we now involve community members, parents, grandparents, community members. Representative Ghostland comes with us on a regular basis along the way with his little puppy. And we have involved the university. From that 5 or 6 youngster, we have grown to 50, 60 people every Wednesday. It goes from September, start of the school year, to just before Thanksgiving. We stop for a period of time. We'll pick it up back in the spring as the weather clears and makes it a bit safer. With regards to the university, every Wednesday, one of the athletic teams comes with us, represented the student athletes of that particular sport. Our first one, the president of the university and the commandant of cadets walked with us along with the women's soccer team. And each week, as I said, another team comes with us. It culminates with the last day, all the athletic teams come with us. So on that last day, we're talking 300 plus people cruising through town at 7:15 in the morning and picking up others along the way. I think the biggest well, I won't say accomplishment, the biggest achievement that we have come up with is in Northfield is a place called the Veterans Place, a home that houses some of our veterans of the past. They are, for me, it's very personal because I come from a military family. The veterans to me are the most valuable, but also in many cases the most vulnerable people that we have in our society. And we started 5-6 years ago. The director saw us coming by and she stopped and asked me what we were doing. I told her. And from that day on, every Wednesday, that is really the highlight of the walk. We stop in front of the Veterans Place. All the veterans come out. Community members meet with us there. And we do something that is becoming lost in our society. We do the Pledge of Allegiance with the veterans and all the kids and all the parents right there outside in front of the building. And that is, for them, a highlight, a major highlight. This year, that culminated with Veterans Day celebration. We brought the veterans to Northfield Elementary School, and we had a school-wide, we call it school-wide morning meeting, and all the veterans were there, recognizing them. The kids made different cards for them, and we talked about the veterans, we recognized them, sang some songs. Again, talking about growing the idea of kindness. It has gone from that 5 or 6 to literally hundreds and hundreds of people over these 17 years, now 18, and including that group, including other community people. And that's what happens. When you start something small and it has a purpose, it grows. And it grows and grows. It's only going to get bigger. And it's now a tradition that will, I hope, never end. Even when it's time for me to move on, I'm hoping it will continue. I believe it will. It's that strong. But that's what, to me, that's the biggest message I wanted to leave today is when you start something small, it's not going to stay small if it has value. And this has value, and it's way beyond anything I ever expected. And there's kids from the past who are now parents who are part of it with their children, and again, the veterans themselves, and the president of Norwich University, the commandant of cadets, all the student athletes at Norwich University, and they in turn have taken it to a different level, doing things for our youngsters in school that benefit the kids even more. Some of the student athletes come in on a regular basis. We have a reading program. I have a bunch of them that help us out on the playground during the most valuable elementary school time there is, recess, and teaching the kids new games, helping them learn about working together, solving conflicts, things like that. So this little thing in 2007 has grown to that, and the more we do that as citizens, the stronger this place will be, this country will be, not just the state of Vermont, but the entire country. And again, as I said when I started, no more important time than the moment to continue and grow all of that. Our country needs it very much. So thank you for letting me be here.
Why don't you stay right here, Mike? I'm sure they might have some questions for you.
Okay. I just had a preschool class. They had a lot of questions before I came.
I wouldn't want to compare them to preschool.
No. That isn't what I meant. That isn't what I meant.
I'm glad you mentioned the veterans community in Northfield. At the State House, there's like a veterans caucus, I believe. They've worked on, I think, tax exemptions for military retirement pay, and I think there was like the first $10,000 was exempted. I mean, but just more broadly, what more would you like to see? What can the legislature do? What would you like to see the legislature do? There's talk on the federal level of maybe potential cuts or efficiencies with Department of Government Efficiency with the VA. So what more, could the state of Vermont do to support our veteran community?
Is that for myself or the governor?
Well, why don't you just tell him you'd like a full exemption on the military gathering?
I without a doubt, certainly say that. I told you earlier that I come from a military family, and some of those individuals would be absolutely affected by that in a positive way. We so underappreciate our entire military environment, every branch of the service. We so underappreciate what those individuals do. And the veterans even more so, I think. And again, I see it firsthand because I interact with these individuals in Northfield on a regular basis. And I would like to see, more than the financial piece, I'd like to see them put in a place where they deserve to be. Not put up on a pedestal, but put in a place of importance. I think for them, talking with them personally, many of them feel what I just said, underappreciated, kind of forgotten about. And if we start cutting things financially, that's going to impact them even more so. Not just in the pocketbook, but in their mindset, which is a big deal for them. Their emotional status, their social emotional status is really important and can be fragile. And this facility we have in Northfield helps to strengthen that for them. So don't know if that answered directly, but nope, just me. Yes, sir.
The latest youth risk behavior survey came out. Some, concerning trends, especially
Yep.
since the pandemic. I wonder if that's something you're seeing in the kids that you're working with, and if you have any thoughts on what's causing this and what the state can do to.
Well, I think the whole COVID experience exaggerated and opened up the world of social emotional issues. It is skyrocketed. Was it always there before? Maybe, but that 2-year experience really opened things up, and we have a lot of youngsters that have some serious social emotional need. Their parents, same thing. The benefit for me after 46, now 47 years is most of the parents I know. I even have grandchildren now as students. So the family background in Northfield is very powerful, very strong, always has been. And so I can delve into their world and know where a lot of it comes from. So it's not just the kids, it's the adults, and if the adults are having issues, it impacts the children. One thing about the whole idea of physical activity, I look at education in a different light than many of my colleagues, especially the administration. I think physical activity, a more regular interest in physical activity, a more regular habit in physical activity within the school could have a serious positive impact on their social emotional experience, their intellectual achievement. I 10 years ago was fortunate enough to complete my PhD, and my research centered just around that, how physical activity impacts a child's physical and social emotional and intellectual development. And that is a piece right now, doing it, what I do in school, whether it be formal PE class or a jump rope team or a fitness club in the morning, I can see the impact. I just had a child this morning, 5 years old, struggling mightily. We had a 5-minute one-on-one talk before I came here. And he's a super active kid, but they are closing him in. And I went to my principal and said, we gotta open this up. We gotta allow him to become more physically active on a daily basis. And I truly believe, it started this morning, I truly believe in time that's gonna help that youngster. I really feel that strongly about physical activity and how it can positively impact a whole, other pieces of their experience.
You can stay right there and you can answer some of the questions they might have next.
If it's political, I have a lot of I have a lot of thoughts about that.
Or maybe not then.
Yeah.
Well, let's end this on a good note.
Yeah. Oh, they could be positive. I didn't. I'm not like Representative Ghostland.
Leave them up there.
Well,
Several people who don't have a house to live in have died over the past week, including two that lost access to emergency motel housing after exhausting their 80-day limit. Have there been any moments since you heard these deaths where you wondered to yourself, would these people still be alive if we had done this differently?
yeah, I know the investigation is still ongoing, so I don't know what caused it. I do know that they were living at the sister's home in proximity to their house. They did have electricity and heaters and so forth, so I'm not sure what they're going to find, but we have to wait for the end of that investigation before we jump to too many conclusions. This is a difficult issue. The GA program is something that we couldn't afford to continue with. We didn't think it was healthy with the hotel motel program as it was designed. We were losing people in those hotels as well. So there's no easy answer here, but we worked with the legislature. We came up with a program we thought would work. It's much more expansive than we ever did before, previous to the pandemic. But we're going to see this through. I mean, the experience we're having right now with the congregate, I call it congregate, but the emergency family shelters has been mostly positive. It's full, but I think we need to expand on that. I'd like to see more emergency shelters open up. I think that's better than a hotel motel program. So again, I think we're on the right track, but yeah, it's difficult, challenging.
How many shelters do you want to see open up? I mean, the two that you created have a capacity of what? Somewhere in the teens in
Yeah.
terms of households?
I
So
think, we have to have both family shelters and then individual congregate type shelters, and we're trying to do that. But they're hard to cite, hard to oversee, mostly because of workforce challenges. Our designated agencies don't have enough people, can't find people. And so that's, again, a reflection, or as a result of our demographics. They continue to haunt us in so many different ways, and that's another one. So we just have to do the best we can throughout this, work our way through it. But at this point in time, opening up the GA program as we did, and I believe that will be full before long. The rooms that are available will be full, but we have to work our way through this.
But you're saying the motels are not a good option, and you're saying we haven't figured out how to do shelters.
Well, we figured out how to do them. I'm saying we don't have enough people. I mean, I don't care what sector you're in. We have a workforce crisis on our hands, caused by demographics, caused by affordability, caused by the lack of housing. We have a long road to work our way out of this, but we have to do it one step at a time and focus on the fundamentals in order to do it. So there are no easy answers here, but I do know that we couldn't afford to continue with the hotel motel program, nor did we think that it was in the best interests of those who were participating in it to be warehoused in hotel motels throughout Vermont. It just wasn't healthy.
So you said you're waiting for, the details are important. We need to see how this investigation plays out. If somebody froze to death because they didn't have a place to live, then that was clear as day. They just were homeless and they died of exposure. Would that change the way you see this situation?
Well, again, I think we need to do the best we can with what we have, and we think we've designed a program or have something that we're able to work with. So I don't want to play the what ifs, but we're doing our best to make sure that doesn't happen.
Is it fair to say that these sorts of deaths may just be a casualty of circumstance then?
I wouldn't, I mean, every death is tragic. These two deaths, they were people, had family members, and they're tragic. My thoughts and condolences go out to the family. But these things do happen. But we have to do whatever we can to prevent them. And we think, again, the emergency shelter program that we're moving towards and hope to expand upon is part of the answer. I mean, we have a situation again in Rutland where we have a facility, but we don't have anyone to oversee it, or a facility available. So again, workforce challenges are challenging all of us.
Some people will hear you say we have to do whatever we can to prevent it, and they would say, open up the motels again.
Well, I
Do whatever you-
don't,
do
but we
whatever-
saw deaths then.
Do you know how many people died when they were
I
living?
know there were dozens
So dozens of people died.
of overdose. Sure.
Is there room in the conversation for exemptions or exceptions for people with like disabilities, people with psychiatric disabilities, on oxygen tanks, seniors, some of these people have lost housing. I know you might have, this was brought up during the session, but is there like a way to make accommodations on a case-by-case basis for some folks?
Yes, I believe there is, and I might ask Kristen McClure if she could, or Chris Winters, if he could comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Governor. It's a good question. Folks with disabilities are eligible under the hotel motel program. They were subject to the 80-day limitations that everyone was subject to during the warmer months. Now that it is December 1st, those number of days are not limited, so there are a lot of folks getting into hotels right now. I think we have about 1,100 hotel rooms filled with capacity for probably another 200 more. And I do just want to add on to what the governor had said earlier, that any death is a tragedy. Our hearts go out to the families of Tammy and Lucas Menard. We know they were very well known and had some great connections in central Vermont and some people who really cared about them. But in terms of expanding shelter capacity, we're now at a statewide capacity of 584 shelter beds. That's up by about 120 shelter beds over this time last year. And there are another approximately 100 beds in the pipeline due to open in this month and next month. So we are greatly expanding our shelter capacity to try to make up for the less space that we have in the hotel motel program this year.
Do you think it matters how Lucas and Tammy died, Chris?
Absolutely. I don't think we know anything about the circumstance. I think we need to wait and see.
Commissioner Winters, one of the things that you just said stuck out to me, that the folks who just passed away had great connections in central Vermont. And we know that a lot of folks experiencing homelessness couch surf or, rely on somewhere that's not a permanent home, but connections in order to get some shelter. What do you think it says about how dire their circumstances were if, even though they were well connected, they were still sleeping outside?
I think it really speaks to the need for affordable housing, that we really need more housing units in the state, especially affordable housing. We do have a lot of resources and connections to try to get people to more permanent and stable situations. We know that a number of people in shelters right now have income, but they don't have enough income to find an affordable apartment. So I think it really speaks to folks can be connected, and we do our best to connect them to services and supports, but without more affordable housing, they are going to be stuck.
Governor, when can we expect a list of proposals for reductions and savings in education, sort of the plan, if you will,
Yeah.
for property taxes.
We'll be putting forth our plan, our policy sometime at the first of the session, so sometime in January.
Can you give us any, oh, sorry.
The Senate Pro Tem, as you know, has cleared the deck in the money committees and the ed committee for your administration to come and present his proposals. It sounds like he hasn't heard for sure one way or another whether you're going to take him up on that offer.
Well, he didn't make the offer to me.
So,
I mean, that doesn't matter. We would love to come in and present to talk about the issue that we have with education spending and costs. But I'm not prepared, we're not going to put out a proposal for them at this point in time. We'll be providing a proposal when the legislative session is enacted.
all right, so
And we'll go through the normal process, going through the committees
right.
and so forth.
the process he's laid out is day one, we clear the deck, administration officials come in, tell us what they want to do to contain costs, reform the financing system, first 5 days of the session. We're not going to get that.
No, we're not prepared to do that because everything has an effect. We have to build our budget at the same time, other policies, we have to balance all that out. I mean, so we can't go in with a proposal that we want for education without knowing how much money we have to spend, where we're going to find any resources, and what we're going to do without. So everything, you pull a string one place and it unravels in another. So we need to look at this holistically from our standpoint. So we'll be presenting it at some point at the beginning of the session. But be happy to talk about some of the problems we see, maybe talk about the dozens of proposals we've made over the last 8 years, and talk about some of those as well.
What is your message to Vermonters? I mean, some communities saw over 20% increase in property taxes this past week. The December 1st letter showing maybe 6%. You know, people are asking us, what's the plan? We need answers now. And I know, I guess, what's your
But we had
message
an
to
answer. We had an
Vermonters?
answer back in the spring, as you remember. I vetoed that legislation, and we had a plan to hold them somewhat harmless. And that wasn't. They didn't take that up. They overrode the veto. So we're at where we're at, and now we have to go through the process, just like we have been doing over the last 8 years, and it's encouraging to hear that they're willing to listen, that we can work together. I'm sure they have ideas as well, and we do, and we'll provide our policy and our proposal, and I'm sure they'll have theirs as well.
Have you and your team been engaging with the NEA, superintendents, sort of the education community? And if so, what do those talks look like?
Well, I'm sure you've followed Secretary Saunders and her listening learning tour that's made up of educators and superintendents and the like. So we're receiving a lot of information from them. They have a lot of good ideas, as well as some reinforcing some of the ideas we have. So from the superintendent's standpoint, and we've heard from them individually. So it's a good start.
The speaker said yesterday that she issued a request to your people to have a one-on-one with you. Is that a request you've received and
Yeah.
something you're amenable to?
I'll be meeting with her sometime before the start of the session.
What's your confidence level that at the end of the day, this biennium, you know, there was going to be lots of twists and turns, but something's going to happen?
Yeah,
I mean-
I feel as though this is the time for us to act, and we felt that last year and the year before and the year before that were the time to act as well. But now we have a willing partner and understand the magnitude of the situation. Voters have spoken, and so we'll be working together to try and solve this. But it won't be easy, and I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is going to be difficult work for all of us.
where on the priority list does property taxes and education spending versus our healthcare system? Even today, there's people at UVM are marching and protesting against the cuts. How far up the totem pole is that?
Yeah, healthcare and education are two crises we face, challenging, that are similar in many, many different ways. And the common denominator is our demographics. We need to bring more people into the state. We need more housing in order to do that. We need to grow our workforce so that we have the resources we need. So this isn't a retreat, but it's a realization that of where we are and where we need to go. But we have to, again, prioritize even our crises. And I think housing is going to be key in unlocking some of the solutions.
Is there anything with the healthcare picture that can be done in the short term? UVM, of course, as you know, is looking at these cuts to services, primary care, dialysis, mental health. We're still seeing double-digit commercial insurance rate hikes 3 years in a row now. Is there any levers that AHS has to sort of let pressure off the system?
Well, again, it has to do with resources, and we'll be happy to work with all involved. I know the legislature will take this issue up as well. The Greenmount Care Board has a huge role to play in this, but all of us need to work together on this, just like we're doing with education. Because, again, there's no simple answers here. There isn't a single lever to pull to make this go away. We're going to have to work our way through this.
What would be a suitable number for that property taxes for the increase? Do you have a
Zero.
number?
Yeah, that would be suitable. Or maybe even a tax cut, that'd be suitable.
Okay, because House Republicans said this morning 3% would be amenable to them. Would you agree with that, or not even that?
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we want to do everything we can to hold taxpayers harmless. So that's our goal. And so we'll have to work our way through this. As I said before, there are many pieces to this budget policy, and so we'll have to see where we end up.
Mr. G, can I ask you a question? It's not every
What is
day.
it?
Well, it's not every day that we have an
Come on.
all-around educator in here with us as we're talking about
You are right.
education funding. So what
Yeah.
are you seeing in school as far as staffing and funding, and tell us about it.
Well, first thing is, he talked about workforce. We are struggling everywhere to find qualified individuals, paraprofessionals, teachers, custodians, every aspect of the workforce needed to run a successful school. So we're not immune to that in the education world. With regards to the financial piece, one of the things I strongly believe in, and I start with my administrators locally, from principal through superintendent through school board, is there are times in decision making you want to rely upon people who know what they're doing, and I don't mean any disrespect to any legislator, but someone who's in the education field for 47 years does know a little bit about the evolution of education over these decades. And the world has grown immensely. Every aspect of the school environment has grown, and they're all, I believe, necessary. It's how we spend our money in that environment that I would look at first. And that starts, again, back to the school boards and but a lot of times at the local level, those individuals making the decisions, whether it be on policy or financial matters, don't always rely on, and I'll say it, someone like myself who has that level of experience and could offer at least advice, if not ideas, that might be beneficial. And this is he called it a defining moment. It absolutely is financially. There are a lot of individuals, my family, my wife and I included. When we saw our tax bill last year, it was extraordinary. And You know, we're fortunately financially able to do so, but many of my parents in school aren't able to, struggling mightily. And of course, when they need to do that to take care of their home, something's going to suffer down the line, whether it's feeding their children or dressing their children or whatever. So I would, if I were part of that decision-making process, I would, one, rely on people, bring in people that are everyday people who see things in a lens that few others see, and then I would look at the whole financial piece and what is necessary, what is essential, what is important, what might be unnecessary. You know, go through that sort of order, and then how is the money being spent? Is you know, in any bureaucracy, and education is a bureaucracy, whether it be Northfield, Vermont, or anywhere else, it's very easy to lose track of funds. And that we need to tighten the belt, I think, when it comes to every dollar. We need to really, and it might be, you know, it may not be a substantial amount, but every little bit matters. And over time, as you build that to the state level, we're talking possibly, potentially millions of dollars that could be either used in a different way or not used at all. That would be my 2 cents with regards to education. Yeah.
Governor, on the demographic, it's all related, right? But you know, you mentioned housing is a big issue. 2 years ago, there was the Home Act with retooling local zoning. Last year, there was that Act 250 bill. What do you think could be coming down the pike this year? What more changes could be made to just help spur housing development, especially as, you know, construction, labor, sure, I mean, just it's a challenging spot right now, I think fair to say, for building. So what do you think can be done?
Well, again, we'll be presenting a package on that as well, because we feel as though that's as high an importance as anything else that we see. But there's no one single answer. You know, it's a multitude of solutions. So I believe, you know, having more incentives to build housing is important. I think the appeal process needs to be looked at a little bit further. I think we need a much longer extension to the conservation bill that they passed, and so there are all kinds of things. We need to look internally as well. You know, what are we doing as an administration? How can we move permits faster within our own agencies? So it's a crisis. It's an all hands on deck type of situation, but we all need to look and find ways, treat it as the crisis it is. That's what I've said before. And sometimes you have to do things that are uncomfortable during a crisis that you normally wouldn't do. But until we unlock that, it's hard to bring more people in. It's hard to make, you know, Vermont more affordable. It's hard to create an economy that grows. So housing is key.
And by extension of the conservation bill, do you mean the Act 250 exemptions or the 30 by 30, 50 by 50?
I think there's 2-year exemptions within there that I don't think, I mean, we're almost a year into them now, so it's not long enough.
All right, we'll move to the phones. Ed Barber, Newport Daily Express.
Yeah, good afternoon, Governor. I wanted to get to back to the outdoor recreation economy. To my understanding, the Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance published a report showing that the outdoor recreation economy in Vermont has been booming in its growth rate over the last few years. I know that you've made a point of investing money in that growth. Can you talk a little bit about the future in that? Are you interested in investing more money to bring more money into the economy, seeing the increase in the amount of revenues that are coming in from the growth of the outdoor economy?
Ed, yeah, that's been one of the bright spots over the last few years, our outdoor recreation. We brought VOREC into play initially in my administration. the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Enhancement Committee, I believe, something like that. And it's been highly effective, and we've built out a number of trails. We've also, on another front with the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, that's been quite successful, although we've been hampered by flooding there as well. So there's a lot of opportunities. But I will say again, as I said with other things, we have to go through our budget process. We don't know exactly what we're going to present because we have some crises on our hands, and we have to prioritize in that manner, as difficult as it is to distinguish between want and need. But having said that, the investments we've made in outdoor recreation, I think, have been very well received, and I think that that's, again, a balance that we'll try and continue with. Secretary Moore, did you want to add anything?
Maybe just a couple of finer points that over the last 8 years, we've invested $10 million through VOREC in community grants, funding literally dozens of projects in every corner of the state, and they have been incredibly well received. The agency's also in the throes of putting its finishing touches on what we lovingly call the SCORP, which is the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. This is a plan we update every 5 years and submit to our federal funding partners, and have been working with Vermonters across the state over the last several months to develop what will be our 2025 SCORP, and look forward to delivering that. But very much as the governor said, outdoor recreation has been a real bright spot. And we've received, many times over the number of applications for those VOREC grants than dollars available. And it's really exciting to see a number of these projects come to fruition on the ground over the last year or two here.
And, okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Back to the room for any final questions?
Back to the homeless shelter topic. When you say you'd like to see more shelters open, where specifically in Williston, Waterbury still, or?
I think throughout the state, there are a number of opportunities, number of areas where we see a fairly extensive homeless population, Brattleboro being one. So we just need to look for those, again, those opportunities.
And do you envision those being staffed by state workers or nonprofits?
We place state workers in the emergency shelters, family shelters, because we couldn't find all the designated agencies who could fulfill that. So I would anticipate, because we're struggling to hire people as well. So this is every sector is impacted by our workforce shortage, and so we'll be looking for partners in this as well.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Sorry, we didn't tell you were going to have to answer on education.
Do you want me to?